The moment God feels silent is often not sudden, but creeping. Maybe you've been praying over and over the same request, for healing, for clarity, for peace. You pour out your heart at dawn, you whisper in the quiet moments. The world around you petitions and shouts back, but God's voice, your sense of His nearness, stillness. You double-check your faith, your surroundings. You start to wonder whether you are imagining Him, whether your prayers are reaching anywhere. That longing, the void, it weighs heavy. It colors your mornings gray, makes night a place of both rest and restlessness. Sometimes the silence is spiritual. God seems distant even though you know all the promises. You know the passages, the stories, the Psalms. You've heard testimonies of others who say God moved. But you wait, and the answer doesn't come. Or perhaps it comes much later in a way you didn't expect. In those stretches, you might feel doubt creeping in. You might wrestle with guilt, thinking, did I do something wrong? Have I lost belief? You might replay prayers wondering, was that prayer enough? Did I pray it right? You search for reasons, explanations. You try to remember what you believe about God's character so that the emptiness doesn't define your faith. There is a hidden purpose in silence, even when it's painful and confusing. It can be a tender pruning, an invitation to trust God's timing rather than lean on your schedule. It can be the space where faith becomes less about what you feel and more about what you know. When God feels silent, it's sometimes because the world's distractions are too loud, or because your heart has things that need to be brought into light. Unspoken fears, hopes you've hidden, expectations that weren't healthy. In that quiet, there is potential. The chance to anchor again in the truths that don't shift, to listen more deeply, to still your heart so you can hear what is whispered, even if it's just in the rustle of faith. Sometimes silence doesn't mean God doesn't care. It means something else is going on deeper than what we feel in the moment. One reason is that silence can be a period of preparation. In Scripture, there are seasons in which people don't hear from God outwardly, but internally there's growth or character being formed, like Abraham and Sarah's waiting, or the long years between prophets in Israel before Christ came. In those gaps, unseen roots are growing, perseverance, faith, trust beyond the easy. The silence is not empty, it's fertile. Another reason is distraction or internal noise. Our lives are full: busyness, expectations, worry, fear. Sometimes we're asking for clarity, but we aren't creating stillness to hear. Could be that worry or doubt has taken up so much of our attention that God's voice gets faint or overshadowed. Also, there are times when we expect God to speak in a certain way, but He speaks differently, or whispers. When we don't recognize His voice, we label the silence abandonment, though God is still with us. And there's another piece. Silence can function as a refining fire. In sorrow, in waiting, our expectations, our trust, even our faith posture can be tested. The silence reveals what's hidden: unspoken fear, unmet expectations, walls around the heart. It prunes what needs pruning. It forces us to root ourselves, not in what we see, but in what is true about God, His character, His promises. It humbles, presses us into dependence. It's painful, but what emerges is often something stronger, more resilient, anchored in more than just the visible. When the silence stretches on, you don't have to wait passively. There are ways to live in the tension, methods that don't force an answer but shape your heart and remind you that God is still present, even when quiet. First, anchor yourself in what you know of God's promises. Read and meditate on scriptures about waiting, about His faithfulness. Verses like Isaiah 40:31, "They who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Or Psalm 27:14, "Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord." These truths don't erase the pain of silence, but they build a foundation you can stand on. Second, Engage your faith in small, consistent rhythms. Prayer, even when it feels empty. Quiet worship. Journaling your honest thoughts, hopes, fears, tensions. Not to cover up the discomfort, but to surface it. Invite trusted friends or mentors into your silence. Share what you're experiencing, what doubts are lingering. Sometimes another voice helps you see God's movement that you missed in the stillness. Also, declare the promises of God over your life. Utter them out loud, write them, hold them in your heart. Doing this doesn't deny that things feel heavy. It acknowledges them, while refusing to build your identity on what you feel. Finally, keep hope alive by reminding yourself of what is to come. Hope isn't an abstract maybe, it's a living posture. Look for evidence, however small, of growth. Perhaps you've become more patient, more compassionate, more aware of God's presence in ways you didn't notice before. Celebrate those small shifts. Also, practice waiting with expectancy. That though God may not speak in your timing, He remains good, He remains present, and He remains unchanging. Silence doesn't mean absence. As you walk this road, you may find that what you once thought was emptiness was a kind of refining, a deepening of trust and intimacy beyond words.